So he's right behind that doe in the back. There he is. See him now? Yeah. We were walking back to the truck, and I pulled off to the side here to check this little small bean field. We saw some does, and then I saw some antlers rise up above the hill, and it's a really good buck in there, but he was coming our direction, and I kind of panicked and jumped out of the way. And probably should have just held our ground and got some really good footage of him, but I didn't want to get caught out in the open. But the doe saw me, and they ran and left. But I'm not going to hunt him. Hopefully nobody else does. Hopefully that deer makes it, because next year that deer could be, I mean, he's probably pushing 170s right now. He could be easily 190s or bigger next year if nobody messes with him. So that's what you do when you have these trade-offs, where you pass up bucks and then you hope for the best. And sometimes they make it and you've got an exciting deer to hunt, and sometimes they don't and you kick yourself for not shooting them. But I'm not going to hunt that buck. I'll give him a chance to see how big he'll get. Amid a landscape of orange and red, with temperatures holding 5 to 10 degrees below the norm, most of our teams were in the field this past week. It was classic October. The bucks seemed to enjoy these high-pressure Indian summer days just as much as we did, showing more than typical levels of daylight activity. This fueled our optimism and kept us ever watchful on long sits. This past week also marked the start of morning hunting for most of our team. It is time to tell the stories of camel-clad men chasing giant bucks. Let's start in Kentucky. Josh Honeycutt fell off our radar after the early season. That is not because he has been couch-bound. Josh has been hunting several days each week, working hard to find back at least one of his several mature shooters. It has been a struggle that has left the young bow hunter discouraged and looking for options. With a gun in hand, Josh hoped to even the odds during the early muzzleloader season. But his struggles continued. Plenty of deer, just no mature bucks. Things will no doubt pick up as we head into the rut, so let's not forget about Josh Honeycutt. He is still out there putting in the time and staying focused. Surely he will surface with a solid buck very soon. Back in eastern Iowa, Jared Mills has fared better. If you remember, Jared is hunting a mystery buck. He can't show any photos or video of the deer because of an agreement he made with his neighbor. At least not until one of them kills the buck. But that is not to say that Jared doesn't have both photos and video. He encountered the 320-inch buck twice during the past week. Well, maybe he's not 320 inches, but hey, I always say, dream big. One encounter came at just 12 yards. Given that he has 2 buck tags, Jared has also been hunting other properties.
Alright, here we go. It's October 20th. Grant and I are settled in. This is my very first hunt on Mike and I's farm this year, so I'm excited to be on this property. There's a couple target bucks, and they've been showing like they're starting to become a little more active in the last week or so. So love to lay our eyes on one of them. We're in a spot where we can see a lot. The other cool part about tonight is that Grant behind the camera just got his Iowa residency, so he has his bow with him tonight. There's a couple targets on this farm, at least one for sure, that we'd like to get him on, so double the chances of hopefully shooting a buck tonight. It's been a heck of a morning. October 25th, bunch of grunts and snort wheezes and chasing. It's been a lot of fun. This is really the first morning that we've hunted actually targeting bucks. We came into this little pinch on Mike and I's farm targeting merino and girly this morning. We've basically seen everything but a mature buck.
The action has been steady and the bucks have been solid, just not quite old enough. Hunting 150 miles to the west of Jared in southern Iowa, Owen Riegler has also been very active. The highlight of his week was pulling a card and finding an old familiar buck on it, one he calls Digits.
Well, we just got nestled in here. It's about 4:45 right now. Oh, we got another buck on the list too. Last year when I was hunting that crabs buck, there was a buck that we had a couple encounters with. He's called Digits. That buck just showed back up here. He always ruts on me and he always summers on the neighbors, but he's like 8 years old and he's even bigger this year. It's crazy to see what he's done from year to year on growth. He's had a couple years where he was down and then a good year last year and then now even bigger this year. So we got all kinds of food around us. We got a clover trail right here. I'm hoping they come down. Beans on the other side of that by the redneck blind. We got a nice little pinch point right here. And that Digits buck, he's been known to bed in that next draw over. And if so, I like our odds of getting him to come through here, so we'll just have to see if he's in here today, but we should be in for a pretty good sit once this wind calms down.
Owen has several mature bucks on the farms he hunts. His focus has been almost entirely on 3 of them. A buck he calls Wolverine, one he calls Picket Fence because of its multi-tined rack, and Digits. With these 3 in mind, Owen has been steadily increasing the pressure and has just begun hunting mornings. We will keep a close eye on Owen's quest. This past week was very good to me. On Wednesday, the hourly forecast called for shifting winds. I decided to stay away from the spots where my known targets were living and headed to a blind where I could control my scent better. I was hunting a spot I know very well, but I was shocked to see a buck I never expected. This afternoon we were planning on going after old One Eye, but the forecast that we looked at 2 different wind forecasts, the hourly forecasts. One was southwest to west to northwest, the other one was south, southeast to west to northwest, and then I don't know, one of them had north in there too, so obviously it wasn't going to work. So we're going to go in and sit in a blind this evening in a spot that historically it's been a really good spot. I've seen and killed a lot of good bucks back here. I haven't had a buck on camera this year back in here that I wanted to hunt, but that's not to say that a surprise buck couldn't pop out. I mean, if I was going to pick a spot for a surprise buck, this would be one of them. So we're going to grab our stuff and head back to the blind. It's kind of fun to just kick back and not have any real agenda, just relax and see what comes out this evening. Got about 45 minutes left, maybe a little bit more than that. And there is a doe and 2 fawns that are working their way in from the north. And I shot 2 does here the last time I was in here, but I would be tempted, if she gives me a good shot, to try to take this doe. We had a small buck and a bunch of turkeys out in front earlier, but that's been it so far. Hopefully we'll have a buck pop out here. There's plenty of food. This is a big and beastie patch, and there's a lot of it left. So there should be more deer popping out here, I would think, before the evening's over. That's that buck from last year, I think. Holy crap, yep it is. That's that same buck from last year. We called him Bruiser in the Beans last year with a buck. I'm gonna have to make a decision if he comes out in front. If you got enough light. That was a good hit, wasn't it? Oh gosh. We were talking about a surprise buck, and this would be the spot for him, and that was a surprise buck. Wow. What a deer. That thing is awesome. The brows on that thing had to have been 8 or 10 inches long. Oh man, I'm shaking now. I don't shake very often, but we had a pretty good standoff there. I think Drake is shaking too. That standoff lasted about 5 minutes, about 20 yards away. I think the hit was good. I kind of had to stand up a little bit. He was so close to the blind. And I had to get a little bit out of position just so I could, wouldn't hit the window. But no, I think that deer's dead. We'll try to gain a little composure here and then go over and take a look at him. But man, what a deer. Whew. I'm sure glad that we came to this spot tonight. Yeah, that's awesome. I can't believe it. I know what deer that is too. I recognized him fairly early on. We filmed that deer in the next field to the south last year on, I think it was like November 9th or 10th. And he looked big then, but he looks a lot bigger now. Dang, who'd have thought? 23rd of October. What a buck. Dang. Wasn't that something? So there's some blood right down here. This is where he was kind of stumbling around, right? Oh, there he is right there. Oh gosh, look at that thing. Oh, look at the size of that thing. Oh man, look at that thing. Look at that beam. The beam has got to be 28 inches long. Look at that thing. Boy, that was the surprise buck. We'll mark that one down. If anybody ever says, what is a surprise buck? We'll have a picture of this deer, because wow, what a deer. Look at that thing. We had no idea that he was back here. This was one of the bucks that I have a little bit of history with this deer from last year, but not very much. And that's what makes him such a surprise and what makes this hunt so much fun. I think there's something about just getting lucky and killing a deer that you didn't really know was there that is so appealing. I mean, I think I have more fun shooting this deer under these circumstances than if I'd been hunting him all season long. It's pretty cool, really cool, you know, to have that much luck fall right into your lap. And I think it evens out over time. You know, we get to feeling sorry for ourselves sometimes, you know, when we have a bad year or a bad shot or something like that. But then, you know, as long as you stick with it and keep doing your best, you know, eventually luck swings back around your way, and it definitely swung back around my way tonight. I mean, what an awesome deer. I mean, he's everything you could possibly want. That takes us through the middle of the week, but the action didn't stop there for our teams. When we left Josh Sparks a week ago, he was after a beautiful 10-pointer on a piece of public land. Josh got there first and almost made the most of it with 2 close encounters, but other hunters have also been hitting that area during the past week. The buck has disappeared, and Josh has moved his efforts to a different tract. He decided on a piece that reflects the property he grew up hunting. Lots of timber with creeks running through it. Using these creeks for access, Josh found a good spot where he encountered a very solid 3-year-old this past Friday.
See him? I don't know. It's a good buck. It looks young. I see her. Yeah, he's a young buck. Well, that almost just worked out. That was an awesome encounter. Max looked up in the back of that field and said we got deer coming. And it was a buck, dog, and a doe. Oh, man. At first I thought he was one that wanted to shoot. And don't get me wrong, he was a beautiful deer. I just do think he was only 3. I'm pretty certain he was only 3. And I've set my goal as something mature, and I'm going to stick to that. I mean, he was just a beautiful, framey, long beams, just a little spindly. And we still got an hour and a half left. I've got to believe there's an older deer in this area somewhere. Hopefully he's behind those 2. Because that might have been the first hot doe in this area, who knows.
Leaving all his gear in the tree that evening, he and Max returned Saturday morning when they had an encounter with their second shooter of the season.
Let's see if I can get out back behind us. That is a stud, dude. I don't know. You can't see anything in here. He's definitely he's listening to see if he hears anything. Here he comes. What? Is he? Yeah, he is, huh? What a tank of a deer right there. I told Max, watch back there. Maybe another deer coming. Then he said another deer stepping out, and right away I knew it was a shooter. He was angled to our south, and I figured I'd give him a couple grunts. When I was grunting behind me, just bent it backwards. And it kind of got his attention, but he just kept walking. And so I did a snort wheeze down in here, and that definitely turned him. And he ended up coming back towards our way. And I thought he was coming, I really did. But what a stud, man. My goodness, I'm freezing on top of the fact that, I mean, we were holding it together pretty good. I thought we were about to do it. What an awesome, awesome encounter. Truly love Iowa.
This is now the spot where Josh intends to focus his efforts until he either tags a buck, burns the spot out, or starts to run into other hunters. Hunting public land successfully is a game of elimination. Little by little, your best spots get messed up, either by you or someone else, and you move on to the next one. Josh hopes he doesn't have to leave this spot anytime soon. This finally brings us to Mike Reed. Hunting several farms, some of which he owns and some he only manages, Mike has narrowed his list of targets down to just 3 bucks that show the most promise. We will bring you much more on Mike's story next week as he begins his quest for these great bucks. Late October cold fronts are magic. We have one coming in just 2 days. In fact, there is even snow in the forecast for much of the Midwest. With these cold temperatures, the bucks will be aggressively pushing their pre-rut agenda on an audience of does that aren't ready for their advances. The dynamic this oil and water relationship sets up in the coming week should be awesome to watch. Anyone with a tag and a couple of days of vacation needs to be in a tree. That's where we're going to be, hunting our best bucks during what could well end up being the best 3 days of the season. These stories and more will continue to unfold right here every week. We appreciate you joining us on this journey. We will see you right back here again next week for the next episode of Midwest Whitetail, and remember to always dream big.